Hello, Shoyan here. Now that the floor and ceiling are in, I'm building the pantry behind the kitchen unit. It's made of solid wood shelves. After that, I'll work on the wall from the back. I called it a pantry, but it's basically a counter with open shelving behind the kitchen. This is where the dishes and kitchen tools go. I'm working on that area now. There used to be pipes in front of this bay window, and it was boxed in with stainless steel plates along the post line. The top was just used as a surface to put things on. But since we cleared all that out, now it's opened up to make usable storage space. There's even a proper foundation here in the front. I don't think it was necessary in the first place, but this place used to be a heavy-duty kitchen with lots of water use. The area was drained with a trench drain and grating, and everything was boxed in with a concrete stem wall. I'm keeping that as is and building 3 tiers above that. The bottom shelf sits on the base, then a middle shelf, and finally a countertop on top. It ends up as a 3-tier setup with a counter on top and shelves below, each made from different materials. The first shelf, sitting directly on the foundation, is made from the same joistless flooring planks I used for the rest of the room. You could think of it as a shelf, or more like an extension of the floor. For the second shelf and the top counter, I used solid hinoki cypress planks. I join about 2.5 planks together for each level to make a single wide shelf and counter. The countertop and the shelf below are both hinoki, but they're made from totally different pieces. I only had one plank with knots, so the second one ended up being clean and knot-free. Hard to say which is better, each has its own charm. The 2 planks are from different regions. The knotty one for the countertop is from the Kiso region, and the upper shelf is local hinoki from around here. The width is about the same, but I counted the growth rings on the Kiso hinoki. It has over 170, maybe even 180. The upper shelf doesn't have any knots at all, but it only has about 70 growth rings. That shows how different they are, even though they're both hinoki. Kiso hinoki grows deep in the mountains of Nagano, slowly, little by little, in a harsh environment. You can really see that in the growth rings and the grain. When I actually cut and plane these 2 planks, putting a blade to them and feeling them by hand, they don't feel like the same species of wood at all. Sure, it's obvious the ring count would make a difference, 70 versus 170. But when I put a blade to them, Kiso hinoki cuts unbelievably clean. You'd think something with such tight rings would be heavier or harder, but that's not the case. Even the knots plane down smooth. The branches of the local hinoki are hard, so it's tough to plane the knots. But Kiso hinoki planes down so smoothly, it really catches you off guard when you try it. This plank used for the countertop still has the natural rounded part of the log, which we call the live edge, on both sides. I'm leaving it on the front, but for the parts going into the wall, I need to square those off so that I can secure them properly. so I trimmed those back at the workshop. Normally, running a plane over a knot this large just wouldn't work with typical hinoki. But again, Kiso wood surprises you. It takes the blade with no trouble. Even the protruding knots where the branch used to be plane down fairly easily. The blade glides smoothly and brings out a nice sheen, totally different from the hinoki from around here. The countertop and the shelves will be finished with a urethane coating. I've actually already got them looking great, just using a hand plane. But with wood that has natural oils like this, if you plane it too cleanly, the finish won't take as well. So I purposely go with a sanded finish to help the coating bond better. It feels like a shame to dull that sheen, but this way, the finish turns out cleaner overall. Next, I strip the dark bark along the front, but not all the way. Leaving just a bit helps the colors blend, and the live edge keeps that natural variation. Now, I install the shelf and countertop starting with the middle shelf. As usual, I sandwich each board between horizontal furring strips. That locks everything in place nice and tight. Same with the shelf, the countertop gets sandwiched between the wall's furring strips. But since it sits right where the sunlight comes through the window, there's a risk of splitting. So I apply glue to both end grains to prevent splitting and then install it. Now that the countertop and shelves are in, I frame the wall. The original steel framing is still in place, and since the building's level, I can run a 15mm thick frame horizontally right over it. Of course, I secure the furring strips with screws made for light gauge steel. With this kind of steel framing, mixing in some wood framing actually works really well. The tricky part is the foundation. There's a concrete stem wall running all the way around the room. It sticks out past the steel framing just a bit, maybe 5 or 6 millimeters. So I trim and plane the furring strips to match the thickness. This time I use both glue and concrete nails. For a tight fit like this, concrete nails work just fine. Now I start hanging the wallboard. Only in the section next to the kitchen, where the range hood goes, do I use M-cloth panels in a vertical row. The rest will be drywall, finished with wallpaper. The wall around the shelving also gets wallpaper. There's no side panel, no divider between the wall and shelves, so everything blends together and looks like one continuous unit. I plane the knots one more time to smooth them out. And that finishes the countertop and shelf boards. Now, the pantry behind the kitchen is done, and half the surrounding wall is finished too. I used hinoki with some protruding knots to add a bit of a traditional Japanese touch. Next, I'll move on to installing the counter and wainscoting. Still a bit more to go. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.